Hey guys, I want to talk about patch 1.0.4 and all the changes that it's brought to Diablo. It feels like the game is a lot different now. In particular, first I'm going to talk about the changes that I did like, and I love the Paragon levels. I think it's a great idea to give some, basically something to do. You don't want to do a run and go farm for like an hour and get nothing out of it, because sometimes, you need to get lucky to get an item that's good enough for the auction house. And having Paragon levels, you always get something. You'll at least get some experience towards the next level, and I like the idea that it's a small bonus, nothing too major. I also like the idea that it gives Magic Find and Gold Find. That's all well. However, this comes with two parts, and the other one is that they're capping Magic Find and Gold Find at 300%. I don't really like this part. You can get up to 300% from the 100 Paragon levels that exist, so eventually Magic Find on gear is going to become worthless. And I don't really like that. I think that this whole idea was a way to stop people from feeling like they had to do gear swapping. And for those of you that don't know what that is, basically equipping all of your Magic Find gear, often with macros, right before you dealt the killing blow on an enemy. And I think that mechanic is terrible, right? People feel forced to do that because they want the rewards, but having to do that is just, I don't know. Makes no sense. It's boring, and the only reason people do that is for the rewards. So, but this change doesn't really fix that. People are still going to do that. Less and less pieces as time goes on, but I feel that the people that were really hurt by this change were those that, including myself, had invested heavily into really expensive gear that was combat ready and had Magic Find. I don't think we had anything to do with the mechanic they were trying to fix, which was gear swapping, but we were affected by it nonetheless. So, whatever. So the focus now is just getting bigger and bigger damage on your character, and I can see why that would be interesting, but at the same time, I feel like it's made Magic Find completely pointless on gear. You can still use some for a little bit, but as you level up, you're going to discard those pieces, and I don't know. I don't like the change. I wish they hadn't done this. I like the Paragon levels. I dislike the cap. And so now I want to talk about the weapon improvements. Level 62, 61 weapons can roll really high damage numbers, and if you've been checking the auction house, you can see some weapons on the first page of DPS that are actually level 62. I thought that was pretty interesting. I've been complaining about how level 62 weapons are completely pointless, and crafting them was a complete waste of money. But now it actually does make sense, and you've probably noticed that the price on weapons has decreased a lot. You can get much better weapons now on the auction house for the same amount of money that you had to spend before. And that's cool. I think weapons were, comparatively speaking, too expensive. You had to spend way too much money. In particular, at the middle range. Every other piece of armor, it goes the best piece is $1 billion, and then one that's a little bit worse than that is $200 million. A little bit worse than that, it's $10 million. And it just fell off pretty quickly because you'd be reaching the point where the crafted ones were good enough. The 62s that people crafted, and tons of them, were definitely good enough to use. You didn't have to go for the 63. In the weapons, however, you didn't. You had to roll it up on the 63. So even the weapons that were bad were still millions of gold because there simply wasn't an abundant supply of them. So with this change, I expect weapon prices to go really far down. It's great news for those players that don't have very much money. And it's just going to be good for the game. So I really like that. I also really like how they changed the auction house. Two changes in particular are amazing. The first one is having 6 fields to search. If you've watched my previous videos where I make sets, I complain about that every 5 minutes. And I love it. It's so good being able to actually search for the item that I want to buy and not have to just scroll through lists and lists of things that are pointless. So that's really good. I also like that now we can sell gold. on the real money auction house. Before, the price was just limited. There was a floor that was too high, and most of the time it actually would not sell. But now I think gold is actually selling pretty easily. It's down to maybe $1.50 right now, from like $2.80 or something. That was the minimum before. So I like that. I like to be able to sell my gold. I hate having to waste a slot and then having it bounce 80% of the time. That wasn't very cool at all. One thing I did not like about the changes to the auction house is that you still can't search Wizard and Witch Doctor offhands by their damage. I don't understand this. Like, pretty sure that 40% of the players, everyone that's playing Wizard and Witch Doctor, this must be the most annoying feature of this game. You actually cannot search offhands by the plus damage that they offer you. It makes absolutely no sense that this was not introduced in this patch, though I'm sure Blizzard will fix this soon enough. It's just, I don't know, it's a gross, like, very serious oversight here. And but whatever, they'll fix it when they fix it, hopefully sooner rather than later. I think another very important change that they made was the one for multiplayer. I think that finally it makes a little bit of sense to try to group up with your friends even. Like before, it was just a net loss to try to go in a group because the scaling of the monsters and I don't know, you just get less rewards over time, and especially with certain builds that are move faster than others. For example, if you're Whirlwind Barb and you want to play with some friends, they're going to fall behind. You're sprinting the whole time and just going forward. And so having to wait for them to keep going was just bad for you, right? Like, it made no sense to try to do that. But now you can actually try, like, it makes a little bit more sense to actually group up, and that's good. I wish they would continue to build up on this. Try to make Diablo a social game where you want to play with your friends and have fun rather than just farm on your own. I think that was a big problem with this game. People just weren't having fun. Like, some people just like to play with their group of 3 friends, and Diablo just punished them really badly. Like, maybe they got like half the rewards that they should be getting if they had just played by themselves, right? It makes no sense. Finally, I like the change for the two-handed weapons. I think that was smart because the weapons were definitely underpowered compared to just dual wielding or even sword and board. It seems like they also buffed the shields. Like, shields can have higher stats on them now compared to before. I'm kind of, I don't know, a little bit on the fence on that. Like, feels like all the shields that we've farmed up so far have become worthless. It's almost how it feels, because like now you can get shields with like over 250 strength and a whole bunch of other stats on it. So yeah, it feels like those are going to replace going to be the next standard of what's a good shield. Well, whatever. But it's good for people that want to use shields, right? On the other hand, the content has been nerfed again, so I think wielding shields is going to go down a little bit in priority just for getting that extra damage in there. We'll see. I actually have not farmed very much. I'm gonna actually be starting to do that in just a bit here. But the last thing that I really liked was that they nerfed Gom, and that boss was a huge pain in the ass. And you'd have to be like either use Overpower with the life on hit thing, which got removed from the game, so it wouldn't work anymore. Or you had to be like geared enough that you could kill them really quickly or something like that, because eventually the room just filled completely with clouds. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So the fact that they nerfed them is necessary, and it's a great idea. Now let's talk a little bit about the things that I really disliked. First of all, I think the changes to Barbarian in particular, and I'm only going to be covering Barbarian in this review because it's the class that I play, but I feel like they did a poor job of balancing it. They've nerfed 2 specs. The one that used Devil's Anvil is completely destroyed, doesn't work anymore. And also the Sword and Board Barb that I use got heavily nerfed with the Overpower fix. And I mean, I respect them for that. I think those things should have been fixed. They were kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, the dominant spec, which was the Whirlwind barb, actually got buffed. So they nerfed the specs 2 and 3 and buffed the top one. Like, that doesn't make much sense, right? Let's just to go over that, right? Whirlwind does more damage now, and they increase the damage of bash. So that's 2 skills that the Whirlwind barb uses, and also the shielding and invulnerable minions packs were one of the toughest for that build because they would just not take the damage, right? Like, they wouldn't be triggering your battle rage, or at least the shielding ones. So those two packs were the toughest to fight, and now they've been heavily nerfed. So I think Whirlwind, like, there's no excuse to not be running Whirlwind barb right now. Or at least sprint, at least to run like the wind. I feel like it's completely necessary, and I don't understand the reasoning behind the balancing for this, because I mean, maybe if you just compare the power in terms of what kind of packs or how many packs or even how fast the build kills stuff, maybe that's still balanced across specs and across different skills that you can use. But the fact that Whirlwind does all of that while sprinting and just completes the run like 20% faster than any other spec is just, I don't know, like, there's no reason not to be doing that right now. I recommend all of you guys at least give it a try, and with the nerfed Inferno it's going to be easier. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing probably. I don't like the spec, I don't like it like the way it plays, but if it's going to farm for me 25% faster than anything else, I just can't take that hit. I'm going to have to do that. And I don't see how we're going to have some build diversity here. I feel like any other build, unless it has sprint, is going to be slower and potentially even weaker than the Whirlwind. So, you know, that's Blizzard for you. The other thing that I really disliked is the cap on Magic Find. I've already talked about that, but I wanted to point out, like, what happens to the Fortune Shrine now? I feel like we're all going to be calibrating our Magic Find with the gear, at least, you know, maybe a month from now, to try to hit exactly 300 so that you level a little bit and then you take a piece off and so forth. So if you get a Fortune Shrine, that's not in the notes saying that it doesn't get limited by the 300%, so it's potentially going to become a worthless shrine. Not sure I like that. So now, the last thing that I really wanted to see with this patch, and I did not, was a fix for gem crafting. If you've ever tried to craft a Radiant Star or anything large like that, it just takes like half an hour of clicking. I don't think anyone enjoys that, but it's still part of the game. They have not reduced the time it takes to craft, unfortunately. Hopefully that's also coming soon. And yeah, drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think about the patch, especially the part with the builds. If anyone has a build out there that can even hope to compare to the efficiency of the Whirlwind Barb, I want to hear about it. I want to try it out. But honestly, I just don't see it happening. The speed of the running, the sprint, is just too strong. Can't compete with it. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.